morning, friends. It's 5:30 a.m. in India, and what inspires me to wake up this early and get ready for a YouTube interview is none other than Zahab. Zahab is someone who inspires more emotions and awe than words as an introduction. He's a Canadian adventurer, ultra distance runner, and founder of non-profit Impossible to Possible, that is helping people realize their highest potential through adventure learning, inclusion, and participation in expeditions. Ray recently became a recipient of the Meritorious Service Cross of Canada. He's an explorer in residence of the Royal Canadian Geographic Society and fellow of the Royal Geographical Society. And now hold on to your seats. Ray has run 17,000 plus kilometers across the world's deserts and icelands and completed multiple unsupported expeditions in some of the coldest places on the planet. Ray, welcome to Life Begins at 40.
So first of all, I am very, very honored that you've agreed to do this. I can't tell you how stoked I am. Thank you so much.
Well, me as well. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is great.
And I look forward to sharing your interview with my friends and people who watch my channel and getting inspired by what you've been able to do. So yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Ray, what was so interesting for me about your journey was that from a pack of cigarettes a day to, of course, you have spoken about your emotional challenges and to becoming an ultra marathoner, I think, who has forgotten to stop. So do share how this journey evolved? What, why, where, when, how, everything.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting thing. I think we all go through periods in our lives when we go through transitions or times that we're not sure, perhaps, of ourselves, or, times when there aren't answers to questions that we are wondering. And I was just at a period in my life where I had no passion. I was very internally an unhappy person, and I just really couldn't find a way out or a solution. And all I wanted was to be, really have purpose and passion in my life. And so I have a younger brother who is a tremendous outdoor athlete. And I saw in him this guy who's doing these amazing things and getting so much out of it, personally, and growing as a person and growing confidence. And I thought, wow, maybe if I did the things he did, maybe my life would be different. It's kind of how it started for me. And one thing leads to another, as they say, and here we are now. That's really how it started. And so it was just simply a search for something different in life,
This is fabulous. So how do you sustain yourself? How long? You've been doing it for years and doing it day after day, running like 25 miles, 50 miles a day.
Well, I mean, every expedition is different. Every project I do is different. So how I train for each project is different. So I take nutrition very seriously. The older I get, I just turned 52. So the older I get, the more focused I am on how I eat and how I recover and all that stuff. So it's been sort of there's been a change. You know what I mean? Like I'm really starting to take the nutritional aspect of what I do very seriously. Much more so. But the training itself is very specific to each expedition that I do.
And how many of these expeditions have you done and ultra marathons have you run?
Well, I mean, I've ran over 17,000 kilometers on foot, on expeditions all over the world. So I don't know, 15 expeditions maybe, plus another 15 expeditions with my foundation, Impossible to Possible, or 14 youth expeditions with Impossible to Possible, plus guided expeditions with my business Capic One, where I take people on their own expeditions around the world. So been at it for quite some time.
So what excites you most about taking people to these expeditions, and what is your joint learning from all of these?
Well, what excites me the most really is the work I'm doing with Impossible to Possible, which is the youth-based foundation. And now those young people, they're the ages of 16 to 21. I take them on expeditions of their own. Those are 100% free of charge. There's no cost for these kids to go. And we're all volunteers in the organization. Their expeditions are then through a live website shared to classrooms all over the world. So it's an entire educational charity thing that we're doing, where young people are getting an opportunity to go out and experience adventure and expeditions and challenge themselves in ways they've never thought of before, but also gives tens of thousands of students in schools an opportunity to learn in a completely different way, using adventure as the platform for learning.
Yeah.
Personally, when I'm taking adults on their own expeditions through my business, which is, over here, it's a different thing, completely different entity completely. Yeah. When I'm taking folks on expeditions, like for example, if you joined us on an expedition, right? They're wide and ranging where we go, and the ability levels of every person are completely different. So we try to nurture each one's ability and make it, a success for that person, but also an opportunity for them to learn and grow about themselves as well. Because we never stop learning. That's one thing for sure. The older we get, we think we get things figured out. We never get it all figured out. Life is all one challenge of learning the entire time.
And your family is completely involved with you in all your adventure activities?
Well, my daughters, I have young daughters. They are going to be adventurers, I'm sure. They ski, they run, they paddle, they do all that stuff. My wife is an ultra marathon runner. It's becoming more of a family affair. We like to get out and do things together. So it's a lot of fun to do that,
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely incredible. I'm a little in awe, so I keep forgetting things that I had decided would ask you. So I also am very curious to know which of all your expeditions has been the toughest for you.
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I tongue in cheek, I'll say to people when they ask me that question, I'll say, well, the last expedition I was on was the toughest because it's the one we remember all the bruises from the most. But I'd have to say potentially crossing the Atacama Desert in the middle of summer 2011. It was excruciatingly hot. I was running solo. Navigation was tricky. It was a brutal environment. It's probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done, for sure. So that's right up there. And I've done a couple of Arctic projects that have been very difficult as well.
And I saw some of the videos as I was reading up on you, and I realized that you go through a lot of injuries while on your expeditions.
Well, it's funny. The injuries stand out for people, but to be honest with you, I haven't had that many. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. I haven't had too many injuries, but they have been there, and it's just part of the deal, right? You commit to doing these things, and you're gonna have difficulties. Those will arise, but it's about how you adapt. It's what we do, what strategies we employ to keep going, and most times that involves a recognition that I chose to be there. I chose to do this thing. And what it's going to come down to is, am I going to keep going or am I going to stop? And once I accept that I'm going to keep going, okay, how do we get past this injury? And it goes that way.
Incredible. And what is the mindset that allows you to attempt all this? And what would be your advice to people who are starting on this journey?
Well, I think honestly, the biggest thing is to not talk oneself out of doing something, right? I mean, it's an appreciation that quite literally we each have one opportunity on this planet in this life, one chance, one kick at the can, as they say, to do things. And I spent the first 30 years of my life talking myself out of taking challenges, out of doing things. And I made a conscious decision at the age of 30 when I changed my life that I was no longer going to do that. And then I'd be willing to take a chance to take a risk. I think the first and most valuable tip I can give someone is that if you have a dream, if there's something that you want to do, you got to go after it. The journey of a marathon begins with the first step. Right. And so like anything that we do in life that is something that we really want to accomplish, we have to start somewhere. And it starts with a commitment, and it starts with a willingness to take a chance and take a risk that we're going to get out there and do this.
What about your expeditions brings you so much joy and purpose?
Well, the fact that I connect my expeditions with classrooms all over the world, that is a real driving factor for me, and it gets me out there, and I love being able to communicate with students and communicate with young people and share the stories, of the expeditions. That is huge for me. Beyond that, it's meeting people and learning. Every expedition I go on is an opportunity for me to learn about the world, for me to meet new friends and establish lifelong family, if you will, around the world. And so that really is a great takeaway for me.
You must know so much about different cultures across.
Well, I've been very fortunate to visit, I don't know, 70 countries or 75 countries in my journeys.
Yeah.
I actually visited Rajasthan many, many years ago with a youth expedition, and it was incredible. I mean, the food, oh my God. If I stayed in Rajasthan for another day, they'd never get me on a plane to get me home. The food was so good, it's crazy. So, we've had some amazing experiences, and I've met some amazing friends, and it's a big driver for what I do, a big driver.
Wonderful. So which brings me to my next question. What about an expedition to India?
Well, we did an India to Rajasthan, expedition to Rajasthan in India many years ago with Impossible to Possible. We brought a group of youth there, and we had as well, all of our logistics were done in India. All of our logistics for every expedition are always done in country. And so it gives us, our team, an additional opportunity to learn from our new friends. And so that was a fascinating expedition in the Thar Desert. And so that was extraordinary opportunity. I'll never forget that.
Wonderful. We look forward to having you back in India soon again.
Let's make it happen.
Yes, especially the northern part of India and the hills closer to the Himalayas. So, when is a good time to start testing and pushing our limits, you would say?
Today.
Any fears?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if anything, I fear mediocrity. I fear being tired. I fear, wasted time. These are things that I fear because, every day is one day less that you have on the planet.
Oh, wonderful. That's inspirational. Okay, so what are the lessons that your ultra marathons have, ultra runs and expeditions have taught you?
Well, it's taught me that each and every one of us, not me, but each and every one of us human beings are capable of extraordinary things, and that we underestimate ourselves many times physically, mentally, and emotionally, and that we are capable of so much more than we think. And I think that in each and every one of us as an explorer or an adventurer, that's what life's about, right? It's the ability to become resilient. And expeditions just happen to magnify that lens a little more, you know what I mean? But in life, we experience things where we need that resilience all the time, like COVID, for example. We're in a global pandemic. We need that resiliency. And so, yeah.
So some quick questions now. And how many days a year are you out challenging yourself?
I am on expedition probably, in a non-COVID year, expeditions probably 60 to 75 days a year.
Gosh, that's a lot. And how many kilometers do you run in a day while you're there?
Well, it all depends on the expedition. On desert expeditions, we can cover 70 to 80, 90 kilometers a day. It's mostly off-road in really tricky terrain. But on Arctic expeditions, it can be much, much, much less than that, depending on, the weight of the sleds and the snow and everything else. It really depends.
How does it impact your body?
Well, as I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, I pay close attention to my recovery now and even closer attention to my nutrition. So, there's an old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I'll just rely on that,
You're a living example. So
Uh,
how easy is life?
well, life is never easy. If life was easy, then what's the point in living it?
Hmm. And must you carry, what do you carry in your toolkit when you're on your expeditions?
Oh, I carry all kinds of stuff. I mean, it depends on the expedition. If I'm unsupported in an Arctic region, I have everything from the tent and the cooking supplies and the stoves and everything else for the duration of the expedition with me, food, everything. On a desert expedition where I may have minimal support, I'm relying mainly on what I'm carrying on my body to get me through a day at a time. So it all depends on the expedition.
So, what is your favorite drink?
Coffee.
Okay. And what define you've spoken about watching your nutrition and leading a healthy lifestyle. So define what is a healthy lifestyle and good nutrition for you.
Well, I think a healthy lifestyle first begins up in your head, and a healthy lifestyle involves balance in life. It involves a holistic approach to life, not looking at one thing as an individual thing, but how all the parts fit together. What you eat, how you sleep, how you exercise, etc., and finding balance in those. There's no one right answer for everyone.
Agreed. Agreed. Well put. So, your favorite music?
I like all music.
You
I like all music, all genres. There's no one genre that I prefer over the other.
Depends on your mood.
Depends on the mood. You just finished my sentence.
So, what have you lost after you began your new life?
I've lost a sense of regret in decisions. Like I wouldn't say complete regret, but I would say I lean more towards the positive side than the negative side. I try to look at things as more as positive opportunities than as negative outcomes, if that makes sense.
Absolute sense. Changes your outlook. I can see that. So, one thing that I'm very curious about is I know it's all here in the head. I go for a 1 hour strength training, and to last those 55 minutes sometimes becomes a challenge for me. I started working out at the age of 50 years, and I'm going to be 53 this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and what makes you last days at ends? I mean, the Sahara expedition was over 100 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have spoken about mindset, but to last 70 miles or 70 kilometers a day for over 100 days.
Well, like I like to say this too, it's 90% mental and the other 10% is all in your head. It really is a mental outlook on things. The physical is going to be what it's going to be. It's what you mentally and how you mentally, perceive things. If you think that you can't do it, then you won't do it, right? I mean, that's the critical piece.
So, which has been your favorite country of all that you have visited?
I'm a Canadian. I love being in Canada. I love the Canadian Arctic. Visiting the Canadian Arctic, I think, is probably one of my favorite places. But I love places all over the world. It's really hard for me to say other than my own country. Obviously, I love so many and visiting so many different places that it's hard for me to say I prefer one place potentially over another.
Ray, in 5 years?
In 5 years, well, I'm hoping to continue growing our organization Impossible to Possible. So that's really important to me. I'd like to be guiding more with our guiding business, Capic One. I mean, these are all things that I would love to grow and see how they, where we can get them to.
Wonderful. I wish you all the best for that.
Thank you.
And lastly, what made you accept this invite?
Well, I'm a big believer. You know, when I first started this journey, I always said to myself, whenever possible, if somebody wants to learn something or hear a story, then we owe it to ourselves to give those stories and to enable others to learn from the experiences that we have. So there's been many times when, I mean, we're working across time zones, vast time zones, but I feel a sense of a desire to want to share the things that I've learned. So whenever these opportunities come up, you know, you have to take them.
Absolutely. And with the virtual strangers. So thank you so, so much. I remain deeply appreciative of your forthrightness, of your kindness in agreeing to do this and making it
Thank
happen.
you so much.
Thank
Thank you so much. And I invite all of your fans and your followers and your viewers to join me on Instagram. I'm sure you have my Instagram page, so it'll be very easy to share that. I
Yes.
post there daily. I'm on Facebook. I have a website, but yeah, join me on Instagram if you get a chance.
And your Instagram posts are heartwarming, inspirational, and very insightful.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Well, you know, get your whole crew over there, you know?
you. Absolutely.